In Jesus' name. Amen. Let us ask for the Holy Spirit's presence. Create in me a clean heart, oh Lord, and renew a right spirit within me. Create in me a clean heart, oh Lord, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not, cast me not. Cast me not away from your presence, oh Lord. And take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of my salvation, and renew thy spirit within me. Lord, we proclaim you now. Lord, we proclaim you now. Almighty power and your awesome majesty. Lord, we call upon you now. Lord, come upon us now and release your power and let your presence fall. So we will say that you are good, and all the miracles that you've done has brought us joy, and we are changed, and all the hopes we have, we place in you right now. Father, we declare that we love you. We declare an everlasting love for you. Lord, we thank you for your presence. We thank you for your direction. We thank you for your interpretation. That you will bring this message in our hearts and you will customize it for your desires for each and every one of us, and you will give us perfection and excellence at the end of it. And in the end, us and our children and our children's children will make heaven. Amen. In Jesus' name. Amen. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Pastors want me not to take too much time. So I will go straight to the point. So today we shall be talking about gaining supernatural advancement. But the question is, at what level are we operating? So we want to gain supernatural advancement. But we have to ask ourselves what level we want to operate in. Let's look at a car and a plane. So compared to the car, the plane is having supernatural advancement. And if you want to move like the plane, you have to realize that there are two things that are different. First of all, you will have to change the engine, and you will have to be using a different fuel, different type of fuel. So a lot of times we walk into some accidental supernatural gain. The challenge we have with that is lack of sustainability. We can't sustain it. That a car flew from the top of a mountain doesn't mean a car can fly every day. And sometimes even that flight has consequences. So we want to ask ourselves, what exactly is it to gain supernatural advancement? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 12. But anybody that has a complete Bible that has up to chapter 12. And it's not shy to read. Yes.
Now,
From verse 1 to 4.
now concerning spiritual gifts,
Brethren,
I will not have you ignorant. Ye know that ye were Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaking by the Holy Spirit, by the Spirit of God, calleth Jesus accursed, and that no man can say that Jesus is the Lord, but by the Holy Ghost. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit.
Okay, thank you. So, that exactly is the secret. Because for you to operate with supernatural benefit, you have to have a supernatural investment. You have to be living in the supernatural. You cannot benefit from where you don't live. It's like, I cannot be happy. I'm saying I'm making gain, but the gain is going to Wally's bank account. You understand? So you have to own that supernatural level for you to have the supernatural gain. If you live in the natural and you operate in the natural, the supernatural gain can exist, but not with you. So you have to ask yourself, so how do you get to that gain? That gain, every tree is coming from a kind of seed of its own. So supernatural gain can only be coming from a supernatural fruit. Do you understand? Which is coming from a supernatural position. So, and sometimes we underrate, we under-spiritualize things. We bring everything to our basic logic and logical knowledge, and at the end of the day, we wonder why we are getting only logical answers. You want illogical answers, but you want to operate with logical questions. So it talks about the spiritual gifts, and then what is the purpose of those gifts? Because we have to understand the purpose. Let's go to verse 5 to verse 7. It says, look what else. Verse 5 to 7.
and there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh all in all.
Okay. So it talks about that each gift has a different purpose. That each gift has a different purpose. So let's go into the gifts themselves. Let's go to verse 8 to 11. Okay.
The Spirit gives one person the ability to speak with wisdom, And the same Spirit gives another person the ability to speak with knowledge. The same Spirit gives faith to one person, and to another it gives gifts of healing. The Spirit gives to one person the power to do miracles, and to another the ability to prophesy, and to another the ability to judge what is from the Spirit and what is not. The Spirit gives one person the ability to speak in different kinds of languages, and to another the ability to interpret those languages. One Spirit, the same Spirit, does all these things. The Spirit decides what to give each one.
Okay. Thank you. So they have listed all the gifts. So how do we use these gifts? Why do we have these gifts? Let's go to verse 12. We'll come back to. Let's go to verse 12.
A person has only one body, but it has many parts. Yes, there are many parts, but all those parts are still just one body. Christ is like that too.
Continue until verse 20.
Some of us are Jews and some of us are not. Some of us are slaves and some of us are free. But we are all baptized to become one body through one Spirit. And we were all given the one Spirit. And a person's body has more than one part. It has many parts. The foot might say, I am not a hand, so I don't belong to the body. But this would not stop the foot from being a part of the body. The ear might say, I am not an eye, so I don't belong to the body. But saying this would not make the ear stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, it would not be able to hear. If the whole body were an ear, it would not be able to smell anything. If each part of the body were the same part.
Okay. So it's talking about unison. But we'll come back to unison. Let's first go to 2 Chronicles chapter 1, verse 3 to 12. Let us see how these gifts work. An example of making supernatural gains with the gifting.
2 Chronicles chapter 1, verse 3 to 12. The people of Israel and the captain generals, judges, leaders and heads of the families were gathered together. Solomon spoke to them, and then they all went to the high place at Gibeon.
So they went to the high place. So Solomon became a king. Solomon became a king, and what he decided to do was to go to the high place. So what does that mean? It means seeking an encounter with God, which was the first step to seeking the spiritual gifts, is that he sought an encounter with God. And what do we do when we seek spiritual gifts, or when we are given a position of opportunity? So why do we want supernatural gain? We want supernatural gain to benefit us as natural men. So you are made the manager in your office, or you own a business, and you are looking for that supernatural gain. Where do you go to first? Do you go to God, or do you outthink yourself and hope that something will happen? Continue.
They were there because of God's meeting tent. Because God's meeting tent was there. The Lord's servant Moses made this tent when he and the Israelites were in the desert. David had carried God's box of the agreement from Kiriath Jearim to Jerusalem, where he had set up another tent for it. But the bronze altar that Bezalel, son of Uri, who was the son of Hur, had made was in front of the holy tent at Gibeon. So Solomon and the people went there to ask the Lord for advice. Solomon went up to the bronze altar before the Lord at the meeting tent and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it. That night, God came to Solomon and said, Ask me for whatever you want me to give to you." Solomon said to God, "You were very kind to my father David when you allowed me to rule on his throne after him. Now, Lord God, continue to keep your promise to my father David. You made me king over so many people that they are like the dust of the earth. Now, give me wisdom and knowledge so that I can lead these people in the right way. No one could rule this great nation without your help." God said to Solomon, "You have the right attitude. You did not ask for long life and riches for yourself. You did not ask for the death of your enemies. You asked for the wisdom and knowledge so that you can make the right decisions. So I will give you wisdom and knowledge, but I will also give you wealth, riches, and honor. No man who lived before you has ever had so much wealth and honor, and no king in the future will have as much wealth and honor." Solomon left the meeting tent that was at the high place in Gibeon and went back to Jerusalem to rule as the king of Israel.
Thank you. So you can see the last verse was talking about the kind of wealth that was on a different level from every other king that had ever existed. So that is that supernatural level we are talking about. And what did he ask for? Asked for, when we were reading the gift, what were the first two? Wisdom and knowledge. He asked for wisdom and knowledge, and God said, "Aha, this guy knows the secret." How many of us remember the secret in our asking? So he said, "This guy knows the secret." So, but how many of us remember the secret when we are asking? What do we ask for? Most of the times, we ask for wealth. In all the gifts that were listed, wisdom, knowledge, faith, healing, miracles, prophecy, discernment of spirit, speaking in tongues, interpretation of tongues, none of them is wealth. None is wealth. And I will tell you from my own personal experience. There was a journey I went through in Wale knows a part of it. Where I had to set up a business from zero and zero support, and it looked very, very costly. But I learned through that journey that we don't require money to be successful. And within a year or two, it had grown to something much bigger than I could ever imagine. This was like something worth millions of dollars. Not like I'm rich, but yeah. But it came from zero. I had zero penny to start with. But what God taught me is that you only need, I know I've mentioned it here, you only need 4 things to be successful. None of them is money. First, you need a big dream. Sometimes some of your dreams don't come true because they are just too small. So, let's say, Madam, her son gives her, her son gives her a shirt to wash and say, "Mommy, this is my shirt." She says, "Put it here in the basket." He puts it in the basket. He goes to play. After 30 minutes, he comes back. The shirt is still not washed. He says, gives her a sock. He says, "Put it in the basket." He goes to play, comes back. He's still not. It's like he's not answering his prayer. Nothing is happening. So he begins to doubt that he needs the shot tomorrow. If he gives her this shot, she will say, "Put it in the basket," and she will still not wash it. But why is she not washing it? It's because the volume is not enough for 1 round in the washing machine. So sometimes we shrink our dream to the size of our situation and our own perceived ability. So we first need what? What did I say? First, a big dream. Then second thing, a powerful God. I did not say God. It is your choice to choose which God you believe has the power to deliver on that size of dream that you have. And God is somehow a democrat when it comes to choosing him or not choosing him. It's always made it clear that it's your choice. So you ask yourself, which God will deliver? Some people go to different types of gods and they give them temporary reprieve. An inhaler cannot heal an asthma patient. It can only give him a temporary reprieve. So some of the things you get from the devil are just like inhaler, but God is the one that gives healing. So do not mistake inhaler for healing. So some things look like God, some things have some power, because it talks about principalities and powers. They are powers. Let's not deceive ourselves. They are powers. But you have to find a power that you can understand and that has love. Not all powers have love. Only one power has love. And in your time of failure, in your own, because every power that has an engagement with you has a contract. And you being human, you will fail on your part of the contract at some point. But when the power you have contracted does not have love, forgiveness limited. That's why I like that song, Covenant Keeping God. You see, the issue, the power in that statement is not that he keeps his covenant, his own share of the covenant. No, it's that he helps you to keep your own part. He cheats for you. He's the only judge that is your own lawyer. So that's the second thing. What's the second thing I said? Okay. The third thing. Strong faith. Strong faith to believe that that powerful God can deliver on that big dream. So if you do not have faith, then you call God a liar. Okay, so as son comes back to me and says, "Mommy, I don't believe you." How will she feel? She wonders why he should have cause to believe, not to believe her after all these years and after all that she has done for him. One of the questions she will ask, have I lied to you? Then he looks at her and says, maybe she cannot do it. You know, sometimes when you say something, when we behave in certain ways, we try to tell God that the dream is too big for God. Our problem is too big for God. Judas felt that the problem was too big for the love of Christ. So there was no hope. That's why he committed suicide. So, what's the fourth one now? The fourth one, energy to back up that faith, to believe that that God can deliver on that big dream. Because you do not have the energy. Faith without works is dead. So, the difference between a dream and a fantasy is that you get up from bed. But when you continue to, when you roll to the other side, and you receive the dream, you roll again. That is a fantasy. You can't come through with you lying down in bed. So those are the things you need to look at. Those things give you the example of how God works. Okay, the most, what I call it, the richest business today is actually the gospel. If you look at, if Jesus was to make money out of everything that he did, okay, give an example, if he was to patent the cross, that people are selling gold cross and everything, and received money for patent, or got royalty from every song that was, say, Jesus, Emmanuel, or any of those things, imagine how much money. And was to get taxes from all the churches that bore his name, do you understand? All the tithes and offerings. Do you know how much money that is? All the t-shirts that they bring to us. Here's something else. Because that's what royalty and patent is about. That's the truth. How much money? But how did he start that business? He had a powerful dream. He had a big dream. A big dream of saving the world, a powerful God, and strong faith, and the energy to even stay on the cross, to stay the cross, and says, let this cross pass over me, but let thy will be done. There was a lot of energy when he was sweating blood. So it was not as simple. He fasted 40 days, 40 nights. He went around everywhere. There was energy and there was faith. So what did he start that business? Let's call it a business. What did he start that business? He started with a boat that was not his own. Recruited staff without having a payroll. So when he organized his first crusade, if you see all the expensive clothes, if you want to organize those things now and you start to calculate the budget, imagine. And he rode on a donkey that was not his own. He selected and went to the Last Supper. It was not his. The banquet was not there. The cross was not his own. Somebody built it for him. Somebody helped him to carry it. They arranged crown for him. He was buried in the most expensive grave that somebody else saved for all his life. And he did not pay security to protect the grave, but there was a whole army that was used to protect the grave. Where did he sit down to ask Nyawale, how do we arrange capital for this business? Well, many of us, we want to bring God to our logical position and then expect to operate in a supernatural game. So, you cannot keep the plane in your garage and expect to use it to fly. You cannot take out the wings from the plane because you want to be able to drive it like a car and hope to get the supernatural flight. No. We must stop thinking naturally if we want to have supernatural expectation. So we must seek the spiritual gifts. These gifts, okay, let me break down some of these things for you. The difference between, Bible already explains to you that the wisdom of men is like the foolishness of God. Yes. So, let me explain what wisdom. Remember when you were 3 years old, or let's say there's a difference between you are a 60 or 70-year-old professor in advanced maths and nuclear physics. You understand? You know all this mathematics. And there's this 3-year-old that has learned how to count to 10 and is excited because 10 is that big final number. And he says he knows maths. What does Professor do? You smile. Then a few months later he says, he's gotten 100. 100 for me as a child, 100 was the biggest figure. Until I started hearing of some other numbers. But he comes with a formula and says that, when we were small, I don't know about you, these days they take them much more things. 2 plus 2 was 4. 4 minus 3 was 1. 4 minus 5 was impossible. That's what we were told. The concept of minus was the equivalent of the supernatural. It did not exist in the mind of the child. So when the child now gets further and starts to talk about almighty formula, it is almighty in his mind. He does not know about calculus. So where does his argument with that professor really start? All the professor does is just smile when he starts to boast about his own intelligence. So man has tried many things. This man wants to be God. He's playing God over the atmosphere, over the weather, over many things. You know, today what we hear is science says this, science says that. Science only exists to the limit of logic. Science does not explain why a woman will give birth without a womb. Do you understand? Science has its limits, and that is the limit where knowledge ends. So when you have the knowledge of God, knowledge of man talks about the formula that Einstein or what do you call it, Socrates, Archimedes, or Isaac Newton. But the knowledge of God is that when Socrates was writing formula, of all the formulas he wrote, there was another one that he wrote somewhere else that was better than the one that was published, that they mistakenly claimed. God knows that one, because he was there. Of all the scraps of paper that Isaac Newton got, plus the one he threw away by mistake, which was actually better than the one that was published, God knows. That's the kind of knowledge. It's knowledge of millions of years old that knows even the thought of the person that thought of that thing that was partially successful, the fullness of that success, the balance, God knows. Then when you come to healing, it is a different level. It's not about finding a way to induce childbirth. It's about expecting a child and making it twins. That is God. Do you understand? So that healing is when someone has a natural, or science have said this is in this person's DNA and everything, then suddenly the DNA has changed. That is God's level of healing. It doesn't go through the medical logic. So imagine you are a stockbroker, you are both stockbrokers, but you have an accurate gift of prophecy. You are the only one that can predict gold. No economics can predict gold. Imagine the level of wealth you'll be exhibiting. So when you call on those spiritual gifts into your natural everyday life, you will experience that supernatural gift.
Yes, sir.
So don't pack your spiritual gifts for the church and Bible and keep it aside and live a natural life, then expect the supernatural to come. No, you did not use it. You have the weapons, you have the armor, but you refuse to use it. So what are you using your spiritual gifts for? Have you even bothered to ask for it? So the Bible says in James, one of the things, the last part of that verse that we are reading relating to Solomon, is that God said that you asked for it for a noble purpose, to rule over my children. The purpose that we ask is important. In James it says, they ask and they receive not, for they ask that they may consume it upon their own lustful desires. So why do we ask for things? I always ask this question, which you should ask yourself, is so that when you say you want to pass your exams, so that you graduate, so that you get a good job, so that you earn a salary, so that you make money, so that if your so that does not end with something that will benefit the kingdom, then you have to revise why you are asking.
Yes, sir.
So, there is something else about using the gifts. There's something else about using the gifts. God is talking about unity, and sometimes we overboast our side of the gift that we have. I always tell people that the church is a spiritual hospital, that we go to the different churches based on our spiritual gaps or illness or whatever you want to call it. So maybe this hospital is an orthopedic hospital, which means that if you have cardiological issues, you will not find it comfortable. So sometimes you move. It's not that one church is bad or the church has become bad. It may be that your need has shifted. Do you understand? Because the giftings are spread around. So the leadership of that church is tilted towards a particular kind of gifting. It's very hard to find where everything is at a high level. You will find a skewness. Some people are skewed towards faith. A lot more churches are skewed Pentecostal churches towards wisdom and knowledge. And so when Peter, unlike Peter, the blind beggar says, silver and gold have I not. So some will say, silver and gold, they say, silver and gold have I not, but that which I have. They will say, that which I have I not? For silver and gold, I will use to take you to the hospital. Yeah, because they have silver and gold. They may not have the gift of healing. But there's nothing wrong if you don't have it. But there's something wrong if you condemn it because you don't have it. So some belittle others and say, because a lot that will have the healing and miracle gifts, they tend not to be that wealthy. Because wealth normally gravitates around wisdom and knowledge, like you see with Solomon. Wealth does not gravitate around those miracles like Elijah, Elisha. Do you understand? So the ones that are wealthy say these are spooky. That's why they are not godly. That's why they are not rich. So wealth is not a measure of wealth. Lazarus should have been rich before he died. So, but the ones that have those gifts, they condemn these ones. They say they are too worldly. But the purpose of the diversity is to force unity.
Yes, sir.
It's not to create judgment.
Yes, sir.
So we must realize where we have gaps and who to partner with. And that's how God will bless the fullness of everything. So having said that, if we break every single gift one by one and operate on a level above the natural, then we will. Yeah. So if we break all those gifts one by one and test the natural version versus supernatural version, and we seek supernatural version and seek to use it in our natural life, then we'll have supernatural. Let us start. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for awakening in us the reality of your presence. I want us to take a song and meditate on it. It says that, contrary to our expectation, God is still in the business of doing miracles and doing supernatural things. What the song says is that mountains are still being moved. Strongholds are still being loosed. God can still do what he has always done.
Mountains are still being moved. Strongholds are still being loosed. God, we believe. Yes, we can
Lord, we
see
believe.
that numbers are still what you do.
God is still in the business of doing wonders.
And bodies are still being raised.
Hallelujah.
And giants are still being slain. God, we believe. Yes, we can see that wonders are still what you do. We are here for you.
To God.
Come and do
Let us invite
what
you.
you do. We are here for you.
Let us stop holding God back.
Come and do what you do. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. This is a move. This is a move. This is a move. This is a move.
This is a move.
Oh, this is a move.
This is a
move. We are here for you. We are here for you. Come and do what you do. We are here for you. We are here for you. You're the only thing that matters. You're the only one that matters. Set our hearts on you. Come and do what you do. This is
Let us ask God that we tap into the move of the supernatural, that He will do what He's used to doing, and that we will not inhibit Him